In the sponsored segment, we are joined with Colorado's best attorney, Phil Harding. And Phil, I understand you have been getting some calls about people being injured on someone else's property. This is a really interesting topic. How do you maximize recovery in this situation?
Well, they used to be called slip and fall cases. Now they fall under a certain law. It's called the Premise Liability Act. Everyone refers to it as its acronym. It's PLA.
PLA.
And there are different standards as to someone who's on the property of another, what duty is owed to them. There's 3 different types of individuals on the property of another.
I mean, yes, trespassing is one.
Trespasser is one, yeah. And then the other 2 are really funny names, licensee and invitee. So let's look at it and let's talk about it. So if there's a trespasser on your property and let's say they're injured, the only way that they can recover is for a danger that you created. Here's an example. You dug a hole. Someone's trespassing on your property, they twist their ankle, you would be held liable. Licensee. So let's say you're renting an apartment and you're inside your apartment, the landlord is only liable for a dangerous condition that they knew about, okay? And the last one is an invitee. So that would be like if you're at a grocery store or if you're in an apartment and you have a apartment, the apartment itself, again, you're a licensee, but if you're in the common area, right, like the hallway, then you're an invitee. Now, the standard for an invitee to the landlord is something that the landlord either knew of or should have known about. So again, trespasser is a dangerous condition that you created. Licensee, that is what the landlord knew about. Invitee, knew or should have known about.
So in that last case, what if it is owned by the government? The sidewalk's owned by the government. What do you do?
Okay, so that is a great question. Here's another thing. You're on the sidewalk. Let's say you're downtown Denver, walking, and you trip and fall into, a pothole or something like that. If the government's involved at all, you have to send a special notice. It's called the GIA notice, right? Stands for the Governmental Immunity Act. And you have to send that within 182 days. And here's the reason why. Remember, we came from England a lot of years ago. Long time ago, right. And so we adopted some of their laws. And one of the laws from England was the king could do no wrong, right? The king could come in, take your land, do whatever you wanted, and you can never sue the king. We don't have a king, but we do have kind of a king, the government.
Yeah.
So we adopted some of those laws. One of them is the GIA. So normally under the Premise Liability Act, there's a 2-year statute of limitation. But if you're hurt on the property of the government or the government caused this in any way, you have to send this 182-day notice. And if you don't, then it doesn't matter how great your case is. But you send the 182-day notice, and then you get the 2-year statute of limitations.
So who's going to pay the medical bills in this situation?
Yeah. If you win, they end up paying the medical bills. But remember, on all of these cases, hurt on the property of another or on the government property, you pay for your own medical bills. And the thing that I want you to do is use your health insurance, Medicaid or Medicare. And here's the reason why. It's called the collateral source doctrine. And what it says is if a collateral source, like health insurance, reduces a bill, the other side doesn't get to see it. Everyone has seen this, and let's look at what's known as an EOB, right? Yep. Explanation of benefit. It's a real EOB on my client who was at Swedish Medical Center. Swedish billed $29,000. Health insurance came back and said, no, we get a discounted rate of this $20,803. So the amount covered by the plan is $8,500, right? Now, if you sent this to the other side, let's say you're hurt on, the government's property, and they're like, great, we'll pay the $8,500. Wrong. You've been paying for the premiums, not the government, not the property where you were hurt. So really what you show them is only the $29,000.
So they don't get to see the discount.
They don't get to see any of this because of the collateral source doctrine. The collateral source reduced this bill. Could be Medicaid, could be Medicare, could be your health insurance. So on this one bill alone, you should get paid $29,000. You send it to the other side, now you're only getting paid $8,500. On this one bill alone, you've lost out on what, $21,000?
Yeah, for sure.
Now, that's just on one bill. Remember, put all of your bills together. You also get to get pain and suffering, disfigurement, if you have a permanent impairment. It's so important. Do the right thing. GIA, send out that notice, use your health insurance, and then at the very end, send them all the medical bills with them being redacted.
Do you have to pay this back to the health insurance?
Great question. So you do. It's called subrogation. Now, health insurance may come back, and let's say they paid $8,500. If they paid the $8,500, remember, you're getting the $29,000. Health insurance comes back and says, I want this $8,500 back. But now here's another law. It's called Colorado's Make Whole Law. So let's say you're hurt on the property of another, and let's say the full policy limits that they have on their house is $100,000. The insurance company gives you the full $100,000. Then under Colorado's Make Whole Law says it is presumed you are not made whole because they gave you everything. You don't have to pay back any subrogation.
Interesting. There's a lot to this process, Phil.
There is. Yeah.
I mean, all these like subrogation. Until I met
Make
you, I didn't
whole.
even know what that means.
Yeah.
So I mean, all the different steps involved in this are a perfect example of why you would want a lawyer, someone like Phil, for example, to help you guide you through all of these different steps. You know, we've been doing this for a long time. I feel like I get it now. I finally get it thanks to you. So thanks for coming in, Phil.
You're welcome.
To reach Phil Harding and Associates directly, call 303-762-9500. You can get a free consultation anytime, and you can find Phil online at hlaw.com. Thanks again, Phil, for sponsoring this segment.
Thank you.